Now, now we're getting into Kramer's rules, where we're actually going to try to solve a system using determinants, right? And what we're using is this thing called Kramer's rule. Now, an important thing here is you have to start with the system of equations in standard form. So system must be in standard form, which means it's always going to be some number times x plus some number times b equals a constant, right? So that's going to be an important part here. And the way it's going to work is, and let's make up some other ones here about f times x, g times y, and k there. That doesn't really matter what I'm using for the coefficients and the constants. But what's happening is we're going to find the determinant of a matrix, but whenever we do that, we'll take the normal coefficient matrix here. So A, B, F, G. Nice because it's 2 by 2, so it's pretty easy to find. We're going to find that determinant. And what we're going to do is find the determinant again, but instead of using, like, let's say if we're trying to find x, instead of using a and f, we're going to replace it with the two constants. And then we divide the two numbers. So let's break it down and see what's happening here. So I make sure it's in standard form. Yep, we're good there in standard form. So I'm going to find C, this is called the coefficient matrix. Coefficient matrix. So I'm just looking at the matrix 5, -6, 3, 4. And I want to find the determinant of that matrix. Now, if you remember, with the 2 by 2, it's pretty easy. You find the product of one diagonal, 5 times 4. You subtract the product of the other diagonal, 3 times -6. 20 plus 18 equals 38. So now I know that the determinant of the coefficient matrix is 38. I'm going to keep that number kind of in my back pocket, right? I'm going to need that here in a second. Now I want to solve for x. And the way I solve for x is I take the coefficient matrix, but instead of writing 5 and 3 in it, I'm going to write 15 and -29. So these two values up here, the constants, are replacing the two coefficients for the x's. But the coefficients for the y's stay the same, -6, +4. And I'm going to find the determinant of that matrix. And we're going to divide it by the determinant of the coefficient matrix, which we already know is 38. So this whole thing is just going to be divided by 38 here. So the determinant of this new solving matrix here is 15 times 4 minus -6 times -29. 15 times 4 is 60 minus 6 times 29. Ooh, what's that, 174? And we divide that by 38. 60 minus 174 is 114 divided by 38. And I think what my answer is going to be is 3. But let me double check. 114. Oh, sorry, -114 divided by 38 is 3. So -3. So I know from this system x equals -3. Now you could just plug that into one of the equations and solve for it, but we want to practice this. So what we're going to do now is we're going to solve for y. So we're going to use the coefficient matrix, the x coefficients, but for the y coefficients now we're going to plug in the 15 and the -29. And we're going to divide it by the determinant of the coefficient matrix again, which of course is dividing by 38. 5 times -29 minus 3 times 15. So that's going to be 5 times negative 29 is negative 145 minus, looks like 45. So we have negative 190 divided by 38. Negative 190 divided by 38 is negative 5. So y equals negative 5. And I've solved the system of equations. Not too bad, right? If you're quick at finding the determinant, this can even be an easier method than solving a whole system of equations. Now, this wasn't a particularly difficult system of equation to solve, but your calculator can't do it. You can't plug that into your calculator and say, solve it. But if your calculator can do matrices and you know how to set it up, you can tell it to do that, which is kind of neat. That's something like if you ever get to a class called linear algebra, I can't find it. Those graphing calculators, they actually do matrices and determinants and all that kind of stuff. And you just set up a determinant, plug it in, and you're good to go. And if you were to take Algebra 2 from the college, you probably would be using the calculator to do it. We're going to just do it by hand. And later on in a class called linear algebra, you'll do it by the calculator all the time. After you show that you've mastered it by hand, it's easier calculations to do with the calculator because you just type in the matrix, say, give me the determinant, and it gives you the numbers. But there we go. We just solved an equation using matrices.